welcome back to the Whole Bucket. It's time to show the next stage of September birth month journals from scratch. And as you can see, covers and closures. And I am actually almost done with the covers and closures. I just saved a little bit. Excuse me. I just saved a little bit to show, and I actually wasn't even going to show this much because, sorry to say, sorry for myself, I guess, but I'm not feeling well, so it's been a rough go, and I was just going to stay to myself and hide, but I thought, well, that's not fair. I did say that I would show this stuff, so, all right, I can do this. Let's take a look at what we're going to do right now. So this is what I was calling the mini grunge journal. It's actually not grungy. It's more industrial, and it's actually very clean industrial. So it borders on scientific industry. I'm not really sure what this is, but at least it gives me a vague sort of focus. Whatever, right? So when I'm doing the covers, cover art, cover pieces, things that can be added are all gathered. One of the things I add either earlier, or if I haven't earlier, then by this point is I choose a ribbon that I want to go with this particular journal. And for this one, I chose this sort of rusty gold, orangey gold, I don't know, bronzy ribbon. I don't really know what this is. Oh, its little eye fell out. So I do that, and then let me set the next parts aside and show you what we're going to do. First of all, I have this little tiny butterfly, and we have to not lose him. I did almost lose him once already, so I'm going to try to be careful with that butterfly. And I have duplicates of this picture and others, and I'm going to be layering them. So I'm going to layer this onto here, and this is the back cover of the Mini Grunge Journal. I've already done the front, and you're going to see that in just a minute or so. But first of all, because this is a little bit of an industrial feel, you know, not technically, but a little bit, I wanted to go with straight edges. A little bit of a different concept for corners and trimming and that sort of thing. So I'm using this corner trimmer that does straight trimming or straight edges, like a tab would be for wow, just can't think at all today. Nope. I think you know what I mean. These are on journaling cards, tags, often. Wow. Okay, so and then I want to mimic the edging that I did on the front, and I got a little complicated with it, so I'm going to set the book aside for a minute and show you a version of what I did. So I want to accentuate the orange, right? But it's a dirty kind of orange. So what I did was I put the orange on the border with the pad tipped in a little bit. So this is putting a very thin edge, but it is putting it on top of the paper. As opposed to if I held this straight against, it would be strictly the edge. If I held this to the back, it would be then a little on the back edge, right? So I just tip it a little bit forward so that it is on that very edge and the front. And then I took my spray bottle and made kind of a long puddle and just dipped these edges in. Remembering to do those little cut corners too. So this is Distress ink, I believe. Yep, Distress ink, which means it is water reactive. And the reason I'm doing this is because I just want it to bleed into the paper a little bit. And I know that I could do this with a brush and I could get that faded look, but that's not quite what I wanted. I wanted the bleed effect. So that's what I did. Now, because this is not treated paper, this is just simple, thin cardstock. You can see maybe, yeah, you can definitely see that it's kind of warping the page a little bit, and it's just fine. It won't matter when it's all together, and it will suit the look just fine. I wouldn't recommend doing this particular method of spreading color for every little thing. It's not going to be appropriate for several things, but for this particular one, it's working. Now, the next thing I did is, if I can find it, I thought I did, purple next, but I guess I didn't. I bet what I did was used Victorian Velvet. One of my very favorite distress colors is Victorian Velvet. Just love this color. It's a purpley pink, and in this case it turns out very purple, and it matches this set super well. So while it's still wet, I'm gonna take a blender and just put it on top of that orange. So oxide is more opaque than ink, which means it'll bury that orange. And you might think that that's a little silly, but you'll see that I'm not 100% covering the orange, right? I'm a bunch covering the orange, but not 100%, because I want the orange to look a little rusty and a little dirty and a little stuff. That's all I did next. And then lastly, to continue getting this industrial, grungy, whatever look, and to give the finished edges that I like, that I prefer, right? Then I took this Hickory Smoke. I didn't go straight up black, which I kind of think maybe I should have, but I didn't want to go so totally dark. So I took the Distress Oxide Hickory Smoke. Again, it's a very matte, opaque color, and I'm going along the, it's right up flat against the edges. So this time it is bleeding in a little bit because it's wet, but it is finishing this exact edge of the paper. Also, I think you can see, yeah, you can kind of see, what you're looking at is some fraying of the edges. Because this is wet and because I'm causing friction by this process, it's actually fraying the edge of the paper. And it softens the corners a little bit without curving them, because I didn't want curvy, right? But it is making them look old and frayed, and I like it. Again, would not recommend this for every process, because if you want clean cut paper or cardstock or whatever, this ain't your cup of tea. So make sure that you understand that wet paper is fragile and you're going to be doing some damage. This is damage on purpose. So the next thing to do with this is the extra cutout piece, which I have already edged in the, I did this in, words are so hard today. I edged this with Victorian Velvet and Hickory Smoke, but I did this dry. I didn't want the edges of this particular piece to get wet and damaged. You know what I failed to do though? I failed to cut this corner out. So let's cut this corner out and re-edge it. We will re-edge it quickly, and we're just going to go like this with the Victorian velvet we already had on there, and then a quick swipe with this just to make it the same all the way around. Okay, prepared. Perfect. Now I want this to be a pocket on the outside of the journal. I don't do that very often because they make me nervous. I always think things are going to get lost or, you know, fall out too often, but I don't know. That's just me over worrying, I think. So if I want this to be a pocket, that means I'm only going to glue it on this outer edge, right? Except I'm afraid that this sticky up flower is going to be a weak spot and that it's going to get too damaged. So I think what I'm going to do is make this a really smaller, that's great language there. I think I'm going to make this a bit smaller of a pocket, and I'm going to bring the glue from the center of this flower down, and then the bottom can go pretty close to the edge, so that the tuck spot will only be about this big. I don't know what I will put in there. And I think, I mean, that makes it a little, I mean, there's a little less security of, and things could fall out, right? But there's ways of fixing that. So I'll figure it out as I go. You're probably going to hear that a lot from me if you watch my process. Almost every process on every journal I make is, I'll just figure it out as I go. I'll figure, it'll come together at some point. Okay, so let me get a gluing page. This one. This one right here. And I'm going to do 2 glues. The reason for 2 glues is because there are parts of this cutout that are kind of fussy, and because the back of a journal will get used a lot. Just hands picking up the book, right? And the surfaces that it sits on and whatever. So I want it to be super secure, which actually my glue stick that I use is very secure, and it's paper on paper, so it's super secure. But I like to double down, make sure that things are going to be good. And this liquid glue on top of the glue stick gives me some wiggle room, as in, because it takes a minute to dry, right, and a minute to grasp the paper, I can move it around, make sure it's on there straight. And because it's wet, it can also squish to the edges, making sure that every seam of this is nice and secure. So I'm going to start with this corner that I've cut and line it up that way. Line up the bottom nice and straight, and the side should just fall into line then, right? Nope, it didn't. So somewhere my cutting is a little wonky. It's okay though. It's okay though, as long as I have these flowers lining up and the fence lining up, we got ourselves a back cover piece. Oh, it's still wet. It's very fragile when it's wet. Make sure if you do this same kind of thing that you're being super careful. Yeah, so let's hold on just a second here before we put the glue on the back, because it is very fragile. While we're waiting for that to dry just a little bit, I will show you what I did on the front cover. So this is how it turned out. I put a gloss finish on the bottles, so they're nice and shiny. What you can't see is that this is a layered piece. There's a layer here. I put this little medallion in the piece a little raised, and this whole cabinet is a little raised, and it is just a thin cardstock on top of the thin cardstock. So it's not hugely dimensional. It is dimensional enough to make a difference, right? So you can definitely see when you're looking at it in person that that tiny bit of dimension makes a difference. And another thing we can do while we're waiting for the paper to dry a little bit is I'll show you what happens with the closure. So I have this tool. This is way less fancy than things you will see other people use, like the Crop-A-Dile, right? I did have one of the hammer kind that is even way less unfancier. Way less unfancier. I cracked me up. Okay, so anyway. I'm going to find vaguely the center of this page. I'm just going to eyeball it, and it has a hole punch side. That seems in too far. Hold on a second. Let me adjust the look of this. No, I guess that's not so bad. My angle was weird, and it looked like I was putting it way in the page. So that's vaguely centered, and I'm not going to fuss that it's not exactly center, and then I'm just gonna, why isn't it punching? I'm just gonna, punch the hole. Oh, good grief. Just call me Grace. Okay, so then we have a hole punched, and we're gonna choose an eyelet. I can grab the other set. I have this set. Ooh, okay, so I thought this was going to be way too bright. But you know what? This orange is actually a really dark orange. It shows up kind of bright on the screen. I think I'm going to use that instead. So I get an eyelet and a little ring. These eyelets are not exactly the right size for this hole puncher. So this is a little tricky, but I actually like how firm it goes in, right? Because then I just feel like it's more secure. I don't even know if that's true. It might actually cause damage because then you're tearing the, tearing the cardstock and the cover, and would that make it weaker or stronger? I have no idea. There's no science to back up my claims. I just think it must be good. So then the eyelet is in place and its little ring is in place, and all I have to do is clamp this down really hard. Oh, nice. Very smooth. And there you go. Look at that. You have a closure. Then I'm not entirely sure how I'm going to make this closure connect. If I'll have it tie or if I'll have a loop and a thing that goes through the loop. But what I do know is I'm going to use this ribbon. So let's just take this ribbon off its little spoolie thingy jobber and get it put in place. So I get this ribbon from a store in Ireland, which I haven't been able to buy from for a long time. I hope someday I will be able to buy from her again, because I love these ribbons and I like to support small business wherever they are, and they're a small business in Ireland, obviously. Anyway, I'm just going to put this through here and tie a single bit for now, because I don't know how this is going to finish. Like I said, I'll figure it out as I go. This is, okay, this needs to fold in because it's really getting in my way. Okay, so somehow or another, this ribbon will then wrap around the book. Okay, it will wrap around the book in the other direction, and it will tie or clasp or simply tuck, right? It depends on the feel of the journal at the time. So I don't know how this will end up, but it will end up being the closure. It's way too long right now, so the other parts, or the part that I end up cutting off of this, will end up in other parts of the journal. I use it for tags and decorations and layering and whatever I can inside. So there we go. Now, let's go back to the cover. See if we can get the glue on this safely without tearing it up and get this done. Oh, it's going to be so exciting. I'm so excited about this part because once I have this done, then this is an actual book and all of the fun stuff gets to start. Not that this stuff so far isn't fun. It is. It's inspiring. It's beautiful. It's fun to do, but it's more it's more utility, right, than creation. It has some creation. It's more utility than creation. I shouldn't feel that way about the cover art because cover art is important, but I take cover art very seriously. Because while you shouldn't judge a book by its cover, I want the cover to make a good impression. Whether it is the simplest cover ever, just maybe just a label, maybe just a flat one-dimension piece, who knows? Some books require a very simple thing. Some books have very complex covers. No matter what it is, it should look good and make a statement. All right, let's get this in place. I am a little worried about that. I forgot how wide this is, and it's covering up the eyelet, which means I will not be able to change this ribbon. Not its position or how it's tied or anything. Guess what I'm going to say to that? I'll figure it out later. And I will. I'll figure it out later. I'm not worried about it. I just glued a ribbon in place that I'm not entirely sure I wanted in place yet. It's staying in place now. Okay. Now, lastly on this, lastly for now anyway, is I wanted this little tiny butterfly to be up here. Because I feel like the purple that's down here should be brought up to the top as well. It seems to have a little bit of something missing up there. Also, the butterfly I chose, the purple is a little bit to the blue. And I'm trying to bring everything a little bit to the blue because September's birthstone is sapphire. And I think there's more than one color sapphire, isn't there? Gosh, I don't remember, but that sapphire blue is just an amazing color, but there's not much of it in this journal kit. So I'm thinking ahead, like I'm going to add the sapphire blue, but I have to make it seem cohesive. So I'm shifting the purple that's in the kit to the blue that's in the sapphire. So this butterfly is one part of that bridge, and there will be other parts throughout. Let's see if we got the whole butterfly in place without damage. We did not. Oh my goodness. I missed the tip of his wing. Okay, let's go over it a little bit more. Make sure he's in place. We want no damaged butterflies. Did I win this time? I did not. Why won't that piece of wing go? If you do rub-ons, oh gosh, they're so cool. They're fun and satisfying to do most of the time. This one's not behaving. And they're beautiful. But remember that you can pull up just a little edge of the plastic it's on and see how it's doing. And as long as you just do a little edge at a time, there we go. There we go. As long as you just do a little edge at a time, you can get it back in place. Excuse me. You can lay it back down and do it some more. There we go. There is the back cover. There is the front cover. And this one is going to be called Mini Grunge or Mini Industrial, or I don't know. This is really going to probably end up being Apothecary because it's just where it's going. Let me pull over the other two and I'll show you how they ended up. So this one, the closure is already chosen. This is the one that's called Vintagey. I chose a purple to the blue ribbon for this one because I tied it with the sapphire cording. I have a very sapphire stone on this dragonfly charm, and it used to not be so sapphire-y. It was a different blue. It was a blue that didn't quite work, and I colored it and sealed it. So I'm happy with that now. And all you do is this closure, all you do is put this charm through the loop. So there's the hole, right? The eyelet. There's a loop that hangs over the front, and you pull the ribbon to the front and you put the charm through the loop. And now when this book is sitting on a shelf, it just hangs like that. It just hangs like that. Nice and easy. No fuss. Now when you want your journal open, everything just sits up there and you don't have to worry about it. But there is the cover art for this one. Oh, here, let me show you something quick. This one has, because it's industrial grungy apothecary, I don't know, this one has no name, poor thing. I did very plain book corners. This one is a vintagey, so I did a scroll kind of book corner. There's the front. This is a lot more complex than it looks. I printed this several times, and this is raised and cut out, and then it's raised and cut out again. The fussy cut top one is ridiculous, and then I painted in shading, and I metallic lined the frame. Oh. This is why I didn't do the covers on video, because they're fussy and I never have a decision ahead of time what I'm gonna do. I just sit and create, and you never know what is gonna happen. Here is the back. The back on this one is actually just a straight up cut out, put on page, because this front was so much work. I just decided I'm going super simple on the back. I can't take days and days and days to do one single book cover. This did take a full day of work. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. Okay, there's that one. And then, let's see. Lastly, we have the foresty one. The foresty one, I hope it's obvious, is not done, because I'm not going to just leave this ribbon strip here. It looks ridiculous. But I haven't quite decided how I want to finish it. I have ideas. I tried a couple. I didn't like them. So, I'll work it out as I go. And the tie on this one, the closure on this one is 2 shorter ribbon pieces, because the big chunk of the ribbon for this one is around this area, and it just ties in a little bow. And there is the ribbon on the inside. Again, still don't know how I'm going to finish this, but this will not just be like it is. Here is the pocket. This is the one that I said was too loose. So I had to figure out a way to get it tighter so that it would actually be a functional pocket. And this is what I did, is I cut this piece. It's a piece of the kit, and it's an oval tag of some sort, and I just cut it in half, and I used it as a pocket brace. So yeah, that's that. And there's the front, and this is just a simple cutout. There's nothing else on it right now other than the ribbon, which I said is not done, but underneath it is that mulberry paper, handmade paper, whatever it is, that I'm kind of loving right now. It didn't fit the other two designs that I already showed you, but for foresty, it looked amazing. And then I edged it with forest moss, another favorite Distress Oxide color, to give it that foresty appearance. And then on the back, it's just a matching cutout. Okay, it's not matchy match, right? They go together, but they're not the same. And the same layering. For this one, you have a book corner that has stuff that looks pretty viney, right? Seemed foresty to me. So that is it. That's how the book covers are going so far. Once I get the Apothecary one figured out as far as the closure goes, then I will move on to all the decorative stuff inside, which means we're going to pull over those piles of supplies, such as this one right here, and start working on this stuff and turning this into the stuff that will decorate the insides of the book. We will be making tags and booklets and tiny books, because I love making tiny books, and who knows what else. But this is where so much fun comes in, and that's what will be in the next video. I'm supposed to say, please like, subscribe, and comment, because I always forget to say that, and a very dear friend of mine has been reminding me, you should say that. There you go. I said it. I'll see you next time. Thanks for watching. Bye.